So the organelles that we're going to learn now is the chloroplast. Okay, so now chloroplast is organelles that it can be found in. Now, not all the leaf cells, be careful, not all the leaf cells. Only the cells that carry out photosynthesis. So this we call as a photosynthetic leaf cells. Okay, and some other photosynthetic organ of plant and also in the algae that carry out photosynthesis. Not all plant cells. For example, if you look at the root cell, okay, or the cells at the stem, that the cortex cells, right? Okay, parenchyma. Those are the cells that actually they won't carry out photosynthesis. So what for? They need the chloroplast. So the majority of the leaf cell, yes, carry out the carry out the photosynthesis. Therefore, yes. So what kind of the leaf cells actually we can get the chloroplast? You can write down. Okay, so we have the mesophyll cell. Okay, mesophyll cell. We have palisade mesophyll as well as the spongy mesophyll. So these two kind of the mesophyll cells, they do have the chloroplast. But that, for example, root hair cells, no need. Xylem, no need. Right? Phloem cells, no need, because they are not involving in the photosynthesis. Okay. Now, if we look at the structure, the membrane system of the chloroplast divide the chloroplast into 3 compartments. Okay, so this chloroplast similar as the mitochondria. I don't use the word same, but similar to the mitochondria. So they are double membrane bound organelles. Write down chloroplast, they are double membrane bound organelles. Okay, and if you compare between the chloroplast and the mitochondria, chloroplasts have even more extensive in terms of the membrane system. Okay, if you compare the mitochondria later, we can see that mitochondria only have outer membrane and inner membrane that highly folded, right? So means that we're going to divide them into 2 compartments only in the mitochondria. We have the intermembrane space as well as the mitochondria matrix. Correct or not? But for chloroplasts, they have additional compartments known as the thylakoid space. Okay, so let me draw the structure and then we can see how it looks. Yeah, it looks different compared to the mitochondria. Okay, now let us try and look at how we can draw the chloroplast. Okay, let us draw the chloroplast. So generally chloroplast you can draw is something like this, the shape. Okay, and then this is the outer membrane. Here, and then we do have the second layer of the membrane known as the inner membrane. Okay. So again, the space between these 2 membranes is known as the intermembrane space. Okay, this one's similar to the mitochondria. Okay, similar, but the inner membrane is not convoluted. Okay. So inside, okay, there is a chloroplast. We do have this something like a sac. Okay, the flattened sac that actually stack up together like this. Okay, stack up, and they are interconnected. These membrane sacs, can you see that stack up together, and they are interconnected like this. Okay, so let us label it. So one that this, okay, is called thylakoid. Can you see that? One sac like this is known as thylakoid. So the space inside these thylakoids is known as thylakoid space. Okay, thylakoid space. So thylakoid all stack together to form a granum. Okay, thylakoid. Okay, can you see that? They stack together to form a granule or plural core grana. Okay, plural core grana. Okay, and then we do have the fluid structure that's surrounding the thylakoid membrane or thylakoid. So this one is known as the stroma. So we say that it's a chloroplast stroma or stroma of chloroplast. Be careful, it's stroma, not stoma. Stroma, S-T-R-O-M-A. So it's a fluid structures. Okay, it's something like a solutions inside the chloroplast. Okay. So let us look at, okay, in terms of photosynthesis, photosynthesis actually divided into two main processes. Okay, so those are we're going to learn in the next semester. Now, we do know that we need to absorb the light intensity, right? Light, for chloroplasts to carry out the photosynthesis, first thing they need to absorb the light energy. So who absorb the light energy? Thylakoids will be the one. Why? Because they have photosynthetic pigment, like chlorophyll. So this actually located on where? On the thylakoid membrane. So therefore, the functions of the thylakoid membrane actually is to carry out the light absorption. Absorb the light energy, okay? Because why? They have the photosynthetic pigments, okay? This is very important. So therefore, they will be able to absorb the light energy. Cannot, okay? Now, inside the thylakoid space, we have a special event that takes place here. They do have the enzyme that carry out photolysis or photolysis of water molecule. We do know that during the photosynthesis, oxygen is released, right? So how we actually can have the oxygen to be released is due to the photolysis of the water molecule. Are you clear? So you can see that H2O, you break it into H plus, okay, plus electron, plus O2. So therefore, this O2, this is not balanced equation. So O2 is the will be released. So this thing happened where? At the thylakoid space, inside the space of the thylakoid. You have the photolysis of water because they do have the enzyme. Okay, so these two, don't need to worry. No need to worry. We're going to learn this one again when we come to the photosynthesis. Okay, but what you need to know at this moment is the chloroplast stroma. Chloroplast stroma, similar to the mitochondrial matrix. They have, okay, right now, the first thing they must have is the circular DNA again. Can you see that? So similar to the mitochondria. Second, they have 70S ribosome. Okay, they have 70S ribosome. Number three, they do have the enzyme. So in mitochondria, the enzyme involved in the aerobic respiration, right? So here also they have the enzyme, but this enzyme involved in the light independent reactions, or known as the Calvin cycle. Okay, known as the Calvin cycle. And during this Calvin cycle, they produce a starch. So therefore, inside the chloroplast stroma, you also can get the starch granule. Okay, so these four items, okay, at these topics, we need to know. This is very important, okay? We need to know. So if forgets what is the name of Calvin cycle, it's okay to say enzyme at this moment. Are you clear? Okay, so chloroplast stroma consists of this circular DNA, 70S ribosome, enzyme involved in the reactions, and also starch granule. Okay, so if you need to take a photo, you can. Here, so this is a summary of the chloroplast. So means that in terms of chloroplast, they are more extensive in terms of the membranous system compared to mitochondria, because they have extra compartment here called thylakoid space. So this thylakoid space will be the one that carry out photolysis of water molecule, split the water molecule so that we get the oxygen to be released. And this process require energy. So who trap the energy? So the photosynthetic pigment, for example, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, for example, they act as the photosynthetic pigment, absorb the light energy. So where they are located on the thylakoid membrane. So they perform the light absorption. So in order to produce the photosynthetic product like glucose, for example, starch, then we have to look at this chloroplast stroma. So chloroplast stroma actually contain circular DNA, 70S ribosome, enzymes, and starch granule. Or more specific in terms of enzyme, this enzyme involved in the light-independent reactions, or the name of these reactions known as Calvin cycle. Okay, so now come back to this. So membrane system of the chloroplast divide the chloroplast space into the three compartments. They are intermembrane space, stroma or chloroplast stroma, and the thylakoid space. Okay, so the content of chloroplast are partitions from the cytosol by the envelope consisting of two layer of the membrane. So that's why chloroplast is a double membrane bound organelle. So inside the chloroplast, another membranous system is formed. It's the form of flattened interconnected sacs, but known as the thylakoids. Okay, thylakoids. So in some region, thylakoids, they are stacked together. So each stack is known as the granum or plural grana. So the fluid outside thylakoid is known as the chloroplast stroma. Consists of what? Consists of circular chloroplast DNA or circular DNA, 70S ribosome, starch granule, and enzyme. At this moment, just know about the enzyme, but in the A2, then we need to know enzyme that involved in the Calvin cycle. Involved in the Calvin cycle. So now I stop here for a while. Please label this diagram. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, so assume that you guys have done the labeling part. Let us look at one by one the label. So first you can see that this arrow or this line point to the outer layer. So this outer layer is known as the outer membranes. Okay, so outer membrane, you should get correct. Second, you can see that this line label, okay, or touch the inner, okay, layer. So this one is known as the inner membrane. So the space in between, the space in between the inner and outer membrane is known as the intermembrane space. Okay, you should get correct. And then you can see that. Okay, so this is one stack by stack. Can you see something like coin? Okay, one coin by coin, you stack it together, right? So when you stack it, this one by one, so one here is called as a thylakoid or thylakoid membrane. Either you say thylakoids or thylakoid membrane. So inside the space inside the thylakoids, okay, sorry, inside the thylakoid is known as the thylakoid space. Okay, it's known as a thylakoid space. And we do know that one thylakoid, if you stack them all together like this, it form a granum. Okay, granum or plural grana. So depends, okay, it depends on the whether the structure when you point is a singular or plural. Okay, for example, when label, okay, if let's say two arrows, then we say grana, like mitochondria. If point to one, we say mitochondrion. If two, then we say mitochondria. Okay. So we come to the last part here. Okay, this one, if you're not so sure, it's okay. This one we're going to learn in detail when come to the chapter photosynthesis in SEM 2, most likely, or maybe SEM 1 if we have time. Okay, so these compartmentalizations, okay, enable the chloroplast to convert light energy to chemical energy during the process of photosynthesis. So again, what is the role? Okay, so general role, they are the site. Okay, chloroplast actually act as a site of photosynthesis. photosynthesis. Okay, so what is the function of photosynthesis? Okay, what is the function? So to produce. Okay, be careful. Don't say that make food. Photosynthesis is not to make food. Only human, we know how to make food. Okay, we know how to cook the food, how we prepare. Okay, so don't say photosynthesis, plant carry out photosynthesis to produce food. Then I will ask you whether McDonald's, KFC, or Pizza Hut, or which one. Okay, they are the food. So for photosynthesis, the definition of photosynthesis actually is to produce organic carbon compounds. Right now, to produce organic carbon compound from inorganic carbon source. Okay, sorry, what I'm doing. Carbon source such as CO2. Okay, so we actually, what is the role of the chloroplast? What is the role of chloroplast? They are the site for photosynthesis. So during the process, they produce organic carbon compounds from inorganic carbon source such as CO2. So what are the organic carbon compounds? Glucose, starch, sucrose. Those are the organic carbon compounds. So don't write it produce food. Plant cannot produce food. Only humans, us, can produce food. Okay, we can cook. Plant cannot cook. Okay, so now, as I said, that's their compartmentalization. So means that each compartment have their own role here. So first, we look at the thylakoid membrane. So what is the function of thylakoid membrane? As we mentioned just now, because they have the green pigments, okay, or photosynthetic pigments. So therefore, they can actually trap the light energy or absorb the light energy. So located on the thylakoid membrane, this pigment just now I already drawn. Okay, drew it on the another app. Okay, thylakoid space. So this split the water molecule into the hydrogen ion electron and very important oxygen, so the oxygen can be released. So this thing take place inside the thylakoid space. And stroma, guys, I prefer you guys to use the word stroma of the chloroplast or chloroplast stroma. So what they do, they actually carry out the light independent stage. Okay, light independent stage. So converts the carbon dioxide into the organic carbon compound. So they are enzyme control reactions known as a Calvin cycle take place in the solutions of the stroma. So one very important here, guys. Very important here. Now, I use a different color to show you guys. We always know that ATP is the energy currency, right? ATP is formed or is synthesized by mitochondria. But do remember that chloroplast can synthesize ATP. Highlights. Student always forget about this. Okay, student always forget about this. So let me write down something so that you have a better, you can remember. So ATP synthesized in 3 ways. Okay, we can synthesize ATP in 3 ways. So the number 1 and number 2 is through the respiration. So one we call as a substrate level phosphorylations, and number 2 is called oxidative phosphorylation. Don't worry about the term. So these two happens actually during respiration. Okay. Number 3 actually is called phosphorylation. Now these are A2 topics. Okay, these are A2. So don't worry at this moment. Okay, but because in the objective question, there are sometimes, okay, objective question is quite confusing one. Sometimes they prefer to, they like to ask this kind of question. Okay, this A2, okay, but they ask it here. Okay, so as for you, you should know what are the organelles can actually produce ATP. The answer is mitochondria. They are the main one. Second, chloroplast. Are you clear? So these two organelles can produce ATP. These two organelles. Are you clear? Not mitochondria only. Okay, mitochondria definitely yes, we do know that. Okay, but chloroplast can produce ATP. The process that produces ATP, we're going to learn this again in the words on the term called photophosphorylation. Okay, photophosphorylation. So how you guys, how you actually recognize this structure as the chloroplast? As I say that, okay, you can see that convex. Can you see that convex? Something like our pao, right? Okay, you buy the char siu pao, right? Something like pao shape. Okay, and then so yeah, you won't be able to see a double membrane, but you can see a lot of the thylakoids. Can you see that thylakoids that stack into the granum? Okay, or grana. So then they are interconnected. Okay, so if I ask you to label, how you label, guys? So this one definitely you can label as the granum. Okay, and then this one it will be the chloroplast stroma. Okay, chloroplast stroma. And you can point to one of the membrane and say that it's a thylakoid membrane. Okay, thylakoid membranes. And space definitely we can't, okay, because it's not detailed enough for us to pinpoint out. Again, these are some of the structures. Then we have the chloroplast membrane, but we do not know whether chloroplast outer and inner membranes. Okay, we can't see it clear in this diagram. Okay, so any more questions, guys? Any more questions? So off the record now.